guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new legal advice content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
First one is titled, Iowa, my dad's house is serviced by a community well that is now owned by an homeowner association. They want him to join the homeowner association to keep using the well. Does have any defense? My father owns a house in an area with a community well. Back in the 90s, when he bought the land and had the house built, the neighborhood was all supposed to be developed. My father knew someone involved in the plans and bought a plot as soon as the opportunity came up. Meanwhile, the well was put in by a well service, and the way the contract worked, the well service owns the well and lines. However, there was some drama with the development company, and the rest of the development didn't end up happening at that time. They eventually sold it all to a different development company, and that new company developed the block as an homeowner association neighborhood. They asked my dad to join. He said no. It was never really an issue again until recently. After the area was developed, the well company has always managed the well and bills people directly. They pay a very small amount that covers the cost of maintaining the well as well, extremely cheap. Apparently, the well servicer recently wanted to get out of the well biz, but not a lot of well servicers want to OWN the well. They want to service them on contracts but don't want to be the actual owners these days. So, they sold the well back to the homeowner association who now owns it and hired a new company to do the maintenance. Now, here is a failure on our part. My dad received notice in the mail about this from the homeowner association. However, they have sent him mail in the past that was not relevant to him, so he thought the recent mailings were crap and ignored it. So apparently, there were 3 community meetings held about this that he did not attend. They've left him voicemails, but he admits that he listened to the first 2 seconds, thought it was political spam, and ignored it. Now they have finally gotten in touch with him that since the well is owned by the homeowner association, they are treating it as an homeowner association benefit and they can't give those benefits to non-members. They told him they understand that he doesn't want to be held to homeowner association covenants just to keep getting the same water he always has, but since the homeowner association is taking on the burden of the well, they need to be fair to members and not have someone who isn't paying for homeowner association benefits receiving them. It sounded exactly as slimy as it reads. They're offering him a special allowance to join the homeowner association but not be held to the covenants such as house colors and fences and all those other things, but so he can use the well. I don't know if they're being slimy and pulling a fast one without a legal basis, or if my father should be legitimately concerned. Should he get a lawyer? Update. Hide all I wanted to update on the outcome of this. Sorry, it's honestly a pretty boring outcome. No cool courtroom outbursts at all, sadly. It turns out there were just some liars, and there was never actually a legal problem in the first place. My dad was just the victim of the homeowner association trying to scam him. Here is my original thread. The summary is that my dad lives in a house served by a community well that is next to an homeowner association, but my dad is not part of it. The homeowner association told my dad that they now own the well and that he needs to join the homeowner association and effectively pay them $800/month to use the well service plus the actual water bill on top of it. He'd end up getting a lawyer to see him as soon as possible. The lawyer told him the first thing he needed to do was get records of ownership for the well and try to get his hands on the details of the sale. However, after a couple days, he said he was having issues getting up-to-date records and was waiting to hear back from a contact at the county because he wasn't sure if Cobbett had delayed records filing or what. Then my dad got a surprise. A water bill from the original well servicer, right on time for their 3 times of year billing. Obviously, that's odd considering he's been told that they don't own the well anymore, and he called them up. It turns out he was just lied to. The well servicer was never looking to get out of the well business permanently, but rather was looking to contract out the day-to-day testing services of the well to another company because many of the wells they service now require more testing than they did years ago, and they no longer have the manpower to do all of it themselves. But they were not selling the well, simply hiring an independent contractor to drive around and do well stuff all day. During that time, the homeowner association had asked them to attend an homeowner association meeting so residents could ask questions about things like filtration, and they mentioned it at that meeting to let residents know that they would be seeing a new person going around doing testing, and wanted to let them know because the testing involves taking samples from individual properties and they didn't want anyone to be freaked out. So when the homeowner association told my dad they now owned the well, they were just plain lying. When the homeowner association said they had a new company doing the servicing, they were half-truthful. A new company was doing the testing, but the homeowner association had nothing to do with it. The contract is between the original well servicer and the individual guy they're contracting out to. The original well servicer also told my dad that the homeowner association had reached out and informed them around the same time they were contacting my dad that they were taking over handling billing, and that the well servicer should bill the homeowner association for all properties, and the homeowner association would then include it in the homeowner association dues billing to streamline things for residents, claiming it would make their residents' lives easier if they only had to keep track of one bill and not multiple. However, the homeowner association actually has no authority to just declare this, and the well servicer just outright told them no. They will continue to bill individual properties. The timing of this coincides with when they started contacting my dad. The well servicer is confident that the homeowner association has zero legal authority over the well situation, and says they respected the homeowner association in an organizational capacity, like calling meetings so residents could ask questions, and were professionally annoyed with them trying to insert themselves into billing, but they were not aware that the homeowner association was claiming to own the well. They told my dad that he should not give the homeowner association any money for water servicing or accept water servicing related information from them in any way. So going back around to the lawyer, my dad got an appointment with the lawyer to tell him all this, and the lawyer had his own news that matched up entirely. The reason he wasn't finding up-to-date records following the supposed sale was because he doesn't believe a legitimate sale has happened. He thinks my dad was just getting scammed. So all in all, my dad will continue to use the well as he always has. He is pretty angry that he had to spend a bunch of money to find out what he already knew, that the homeowner association is made of dicks, but we are definitely breathing a sigh of relief. Meanwhile, as for the homeowner association, my father's lawyer has suggested that there may be room for legal action against the homeowner association reps for what was basically fraudulent claims. My father doesn't want to spend the money pursuing it at this time, but the well servicer did ask for copies of everything he received from the homeowner association, because they want to review it with their own lawyer. Thanks to everyone who gave advice. We're grateful for it, and also for the fact that we didn't have to use most of it. Haha. Next one is titled, Multiple Issues with New Neighbors. I bought a piece of land in Flint, and that had been vacant for 10 years. I have only had the property for about 2 months, and I've been over there a handful of times. I had several different interactions with neighbors. Most said they had no idea it was for sale. Some of the neighbors were nice, some were belligerent. One lady chased us down on my property with a camera and asked if the pine trees we were planting were plants. The earliest appointment for my survey is October. So I was on my property a few days ago, and I noticed things had changed. My family had built a fort out of sticks, and that was destroyed. And I have things of mine that were thrown into the woods or missing. Debris was strewn to block paths. The previous owner left a lot of garbage that I have to clean up. I was cutting trees, and the neighbors called the police. The police asked me to prove I owned it, and they told me that the neighbors had reported squatters in a teepee, kids' fort that was torn down. I have yet to put up no trespassing signs, but I will the next time I go there. The officers said they had so many calls that it has made it to the police chief's desk. One of the neighbors that called told the police that I was staring into her yard and I planted trees on her yard, and she ripped them out. Backstory there was that I was there a week earlier with my dad planting trees. The neighbor starts yelling at us, and we start talking to her about how I bought the property. She calmed down, and we asked her to show us the property line, and she said it was around a tree. My woods is full of trees. She couldn't clearly give me a border. So we offered to dig the trees back up and move them, and she said it was fine and they looked nice. Fast forward. She ripped out about $300 worth of trees without any clear indication of property line. So now my stuff is being destroyed and torn down, and I don't feel safe. I want to file a police report for trespassing and destruction of property. Can I file on behalf of my trees since the woman couldn't indicate a property line? Should I call the department and ask for the police chief to speak with him, or call and talk to one of the responding officers? What should I say and what are my options? Update. So I went over with my brother and my father to mow part of the property. I brought no trespassing signs with me. I was going to put them well into the woods so the tree-ripping neighbor would have no right to rip them down or say I was trespassing. We put the signs up and we heard a gunshot. Same lady that ripped my trees out previously. She yelled at us, "Who's out there?" And I yelled, "The owner of the property." She yelled, "What do you have in your hands?" It was nails and a hammer and no trespassing signs. I yelled back, "None of your business." My dad yelled that he was calling the police, and we walked away where it was safer, and we heard another gunshot. We waited off-site for the police and returned when they showed up. We walked back there and the police walked into her yard, and my dad and the rest of us followed to get this solved. The woman that fired the gun said nobody fired a gun. And we said we heard a gun twice, and she had a rifle in her hand when we saw her. She said that we had trespassed on her property on multiple occasions and were peeking through the woods at her grandchild. She said we could have been child traffickers. We were squatters from one town over, and the local PD never got back to her about the squatters. They said there were potentially bears nearby. She said, well, when someone of the opposite color walked through the woods. This lady trying to make anything stick. At one point we said when we met her previously we told her we owned it. But she said that she didn't know that that was true. Another officer who had been there last time said that he told her last time that we owned it. And she said she didn't know if that was true or not. She also kept asking the cops if they were calling her a liar when they would correct her. The cops told her she handled it wrong. The lady and I exchanged numbers because the cops said I should call her when I'm in the woods on my property. We talked to the officers before we left. I asked one of the officers when is it considered harassment, and he said that the neighbors thought they were right in what they did, even though they handled it wrong and they're really stuck in their ways. The officers told us to try and stay away from that side of the property and build a fence once it's surveyed. They said I can call an officer to have them on standby whenever I'm on the property. Yesterday, I got a call from the PD code enforcement. He says the neighbors feel threatened and I can't be trespassing on their property anymore and peeping into their backyards, and it could be a peeping Tom situation. I said I haven't been. He said they have every right to feel threatened, and he told them to call PD every time I'm back in the woods on my property. He tried telling me that I couldn't go back into my woods anymore, and I asked him what rights I had on the land I owned. He just kept telling me that I was in the wrong and to make sure to tell my dad to stop too. I told him I was having it surveyed, and he told me that that was fine, but to stop trespassing. I called to see if the police chief was available to talk to, and they said I had to go through the chain of command to talk to him. They said a lieutenant was available. I spoke with him and tried to sum up, but he was basically saying that he didn't know what was true in the situation, and he's not familiar with it, so I just need to get a survey. I asked about a restraining order, and the lieutenant said that we are neighbors from now on and should try to be neighborly. My dad and I went up to the PD today to get copies of police reports and speak to someone in person. They said they lost power and weren't open again till the 5th, and everyone was leaving. At what point is this harassment? The police are taking this neighbor's word as fact because she is called so many times and am being treated as guilty. And everyone is making excuses for this woman firing a gun twice because I'm on my property. What options do I have at this point? Last one is titled, Connecticut, neighbors put security camera on my porch. Landlord-tenant housing, on, not pointed to, but literally on. I'm not sure where to report this or if I can even report it to begin with. This is a multifamily home. The couple that live upstairs are very spiteful and have been doing small things like tipping our trash over and keying the cars. But the main issue right now is they installed a Ring doorbell camera. Yes, it's a doorbell, not sure why, on our porch wall. We rent out the bottom, which is the front porch, but they have a porch on the top for which all their packages come. Landlord will not interfere. It makes me uncomfortable that I cannot use my front porch without being watched. Any advice is appreciated. Update. So a while ago, I posted this telling about how the tenants above bolted a camera on my front porch. After many conversations with the landlord claims her daughter has caught COVID and that she is in quarantine, but after her quarantine, she will be coming down to enforce the camera removal. The landlord has further shared with me that she is in the process of evicting them, and has been for a year now, as they are $10K plus behind in rent. Last night, the man upstairs came knocking hard at my door screaming at me because I told the landlord I have a leak in the ceiling. He seemed drunk or under the influence of something, as his reason for being irate did not make sense. Taking some of your advice, I contacted the non-emergency police number to report the camera, but they told me that it is not a police matter and that I must wait for the landlord to come out of quarantine to enforce the camera removal. I've also invested in a doorbell camera of my own as well as one pointing at the cars. Just waiting for the tech to come and hook it up. Questions. How long does eviction process take exactly? I realize CT is a moratorium state that does not end until 2022. Any more tips regarding the situation is very much appreciated. Thanks for listening.